Hi, Zizaran here with another video, and in this video I'm going to do a bit of a new format where I have like a mini podcast slash spill guide with Gazzy to talk about all things Minion and just go through his thoughts on Minions and stuff. So let me know what you think of this format. It's a bit of a new approach for a collab. Obviously you guys know I love collabing with other creators and showing off some of the best builds Path of Exile has to offer. So let me know what you think, but either way, enjoy the video and thank you so much. Hey Gazzy, thank you so much for joining me, and we are going to be going over Gazzy's builds, and there's a few POBs here, and I figured we could also do a mini talk of all things Minion. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, so give it to me straight. What's the state of Minions for 325?
Well, the diversity got vastly increased simply because of the increase of defenses on the ES front and removal of Divine Blessing.
Yeah.
So it might not seem like a big change, but what it allows us to do is to certainly go into more hybrid, like Petrified Blood, ES lifestyles, as well as CI again, which was meta quite some time ago, instead of keeping up with this consistent meta poison builds. So it just increased the diversity across the board. Plus the Affliction Spectres, we still need information on those, but they are obviously giving some more variety in terms of choices for builds. So all in all, it's basically just as strong as last league, but there are more available routes to take.
Cool. That's very nice. And I guess there's going to be a lot of questions with the, like, there could be new and exciting minions from the league mechanic, I guess. Like, stuff like that's always fun. So tell me a little bit about, I have the low budget guide open here, and you have 3 different POBs so people can choose what kind of budget they're on. Like, yeah, run me through this a little bit.
So the low budget is strictly meant to be super low budget. So the defensive layer might not seem that great. Like the
Mhm.
max fist hit is like 18, 19,000. Essentially, like most other builds, everyone's going to push up for endurance charges because they're absolutely cracked. The build is supposed to be able to take you from a league starting scenario with no currency, level with SRS, level with absolution, whatever you choose to. You can get yourself the unique Bitter Dream Scepter, and that's going to carry you up towards red tier maps, just that weapon alone.
Okay.
And then that's basically it. It's been a solid league starter for a long time. This entire character, or this POB, has Bones of Ulur, which is like an alch item even on league start days, and just generic pieces to get yourself sorted with resistances and life, and be able to do all 4 Void Stones up to like level 92, I believe the POB is set to, without any problems. It's very lazy.
Awesome.
So that's basically the low budgets.
So what are the specters that we're starting with on this?
So again, since we don't have the affliction details, the biggest problem here is deciding the specters. So
Yeah.
that might change. But based off the information we have, we're going to run 1 primal crush claw. It applies a debuff on enemies to make them take increased cold damage. We're going to run a guardian turtle that gives us a buff of increased physical damage reduction, and it provides us with a determination aura. Now the problem with that one is that it's going to be nerfed on the aura, so the armor will be lowered. It's not that big of a deal, but what is a big deal is that this guy is slow. And I
Yeah.
mean, like, I'm talking Diablo 4 Season 1 Necromancer slow. Like, it is that slow. So you're not always going to have him with you, which is fine, which is why the build's been designed to stack up the defensive layers to handle him not being in range. But you're going to want him in range versus bosses, and versus bosses, that's not the problem. And then the last specter is a classical arena master. But if you look at the skills section in the POB and scroll down to the config setup, there is another one called Phantasms in the skills groups
All
where all
right.
the gems are at. So the problem with POBing minions is that you always have to like find these routes to pass through back and forth and find ways to get accurate DPS display.
Mm-hmm.
So the way this is set is actually the Phantasms is equivalent to a level 17 skeleton. So that's how we set it
Oh,
up, and that allows us to set the damage numbers from these guys to do accurate DPS display in POB. So
right.
it's a little wonky. So that's why the POB looks the way it is.
Right. That's interesting. That's a fun workaround. Cool. And are you league starting this yourself?
Yes, I've played it before. There's been quite a few small changes from how it used to play. Mine, the defensive layer is one thing. We moved away from block. Previously we focused on block all the way through. Now we're just trying to mitigate all the damage. So we're not even taking Misters of Sacrifice, which allows us to get
Oh.
the offering to affect us. we're actually moving in to take in the Plaguebringer, which will then make so that enemies near corpses takes increased damage, and they also deal less damage to further mitigate damage output, and also
Right.
increases AoE.
Very interesting. And so you're not going for block at all then? Like, how do you think sustain will feel with the new endurance charges and stuff?
Well, sustain in general is kind of comfortable. This specific PUB sits at about 4.2 thousand life, and it has a life regeneration of 460 something per second. And on top of this, you have 1% of the damage dealt by your minions is leached to you as HP, and then you have your panic, your flask options on top of this, of course.
Hmm.
But again, the low budget is not going to have any fantastic numbers. It's getting you through the void stones. You're going to have to use the flask. You're not fully sustained like the higher budget.
Yeah.
Another thing to point out, though, on this low budget is a lot of people have been talking about the clear speed on these builds,
Yeah.
and we're not going to be having like a super clear speed on a low budget Zoomancer. So the way this build is designed to fix that is at explosion AG, but we can talk about that when we look at a higher budget as well.
Okay, cool. And to be fair, like minions in general have like a lot of padding, right? They absorb a lot of hits, etc. How has like minions survival been lately? Because I haven't played that much minions. Like, what's the state of them? Like, yeah, just staying alive at the moment.
Well, that's been a pretty interesting topic from certain leagues in the past. We can tell you that much, but you know all about that. They're actually really, really good. You can actually verify survivability on the Animate Guardian if you go to the calculation tab in the PUB.
Yeah.
So in the calcs, you can choose in the socket group the Animate Guardian, and then you can see in the minion, the tag is purple text saying Animate Guardian gear. That makes it so that the minion is actually wearing that gear. And on the right-hand side, now you'll see all the stats this AG will have with that specific gear equipped. As you can see, he doesn't have too much recovery. It's about 1,000 per second. He's sitting comfortably on 50,000 HP. And if you scroll down and check on the bottom left, you'll see the max physical hit tab being 111,000. Takes almost 500,000 elemental damage. Like, he's not going to die in the content this build is designed to do. He's way too tanky.
Yeah, it needs like Ubers to kill it.
He will die to Ubers.
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Yeah. Maybe Cyrus Desolation Storms too.
There's one no. Maven. Maven beams prevent regeneration or recovery. That applies to minions, so be a little bit careful on that one.
Damn. Yeah, that's annoying. Awesome. What about playing this build on SSF? Like, how mandatory are these uniques?
So obviously the Bones of Fulver is you shouldn't really use it. it's just a very comfortable way to help with Spectre levels. Tri-grip, because we're going to focus on cold conversion, Tri-grip becomes a mandatory piece. Genius Juju is very nice in terms of the defensive layer it brings, which is actually not calculated in PUB.
Oh, nice.
Same thing with taunts, so you'll have to check that as well. These are further,
so
more
it's a little
layers.
tankier, yeah.
Yeah. Plus, 30 plus minions taking up aggro from enemies is pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
But the low budget is kind of soul self unfriendly because of that, with the addition of Tri-grip. The problem is through the cold conversion, the higher budget you go, it puts a lot of pressure on the gear that is not soul self unfriendly. That's also one of the main reasons why poison minion builds have been a better focus for solo self-fun specifically.
Yeah.
Because the items are easier.
Would you do anything different to start in solo self-fun before you have Try to Grip?
No. I mean, Elemental SRS, not so good in the late stage, but getting to the 4 Void Stones is easy. Absolution works perfectly fine. Even better if you're playing a Guardian. Radiant Crusade Ascendancy just carries everything. This is a Necromancer, so I'd probably stick with Absolution, probably SRS for the Soul Self-Fun first 4 Void Stones, and then see what I can work with what I got from there, essentially.
And also, if anyone's having any issues, they can just drop by your stream and ask you questions about minions, and don't think there's much you can't answer there, so...
Probably. Hopefully.
Well, we'll move on to the medium budget guide. So what's the main differences here?
So in the written guide that I have for this, there's a section called Gear Progression that is meant to help people navigate from the low budget transitioning into medium budgets. And the big things is obviously bigger numbers. So a +1 weapon becomes a +2. We're also moving over socket starvation issues by having a classical minion helmet. And what a minion helmet is one of those non-soul self-unfriendly things. It's a Shaper Elder helmet, and it's supposed to have minion damage, hypothermia, and plus level of all minion skills. So we're keeping this with bottom rolls, essentially. But the
Nice.
better rolls, the better. You can have increased critical strikes for spells, very important, or the Essence of Horror on this as well.
Yeah.
So we've chosen to not use a Bone Helmet here, because the
Okay.
idea with this build is to move into CI later. So if you buy this on an ES base instead, the better you have on the base ES, the easier you can transition later to high body without replacing your helmet. So you can wait with that purchase if you want to go even crazier with it.
I feel like you always end up min-maxing the shit out of these builds. I always see you doing, like, sometimes scouring a helmet.
Ah,
But, yeah, that's very cool. And are,
yeah,
like, the
yeah.
Spectre choices gonna change here at the medium budget, or?
Yeah, so the medium budget runs a Crush Claw, the Harvest Spectre again, but this one, which is also why we split the PUBs up.
Mhm.
There's a bug right now because of the Forest Warrior, one of the Corpse Spectres of Affliction. This gives Onslaught. The bug is that if you have this as an available choice, all your minions get Onslaught, even if you haven't chosen it. So I have to split the PUBs because of this.
Man, that's annoying.
Um, but then Arena Master and Guardian. So essentially it's the same Spectres, but we get another one, and that one is the Forest Warrior. Some aura changes, better defensive layers in general. Like this one has, I believe this one can tank Uber Shaper Slam, I believe. Unless you get really unlucky with a high damage roll from it, this build will
Yeah.
survive an Uber Shaper Slam.
Yeah. Awesome. That's really good. Like, 25k for max it is very respectable.
Another thing with the medium budget is the medium cluster jewel.
Mhm.
Very, very cheap to accommodate. That one's running Life from Death and Blessed Rebirth. It's at a later stage, especially in tier 16 or red tiers and higher maps, AoE damage will start killing your skeletons. So you
Ah.
need Blessed Rebirth, keeping them alive. And when you are over summoning, so when you have 10 max skeletons, you summon another 4, the old 4 will actually die, and they count as if they've died. And that allows you to have Life from Death, which means that all your other minions will recover life because of this.
Ah.
So this is how you're going to sustain, or this will make every other minion you have sustain themselves because of this. Pretty neat mechanic to
That
play
is
around
really
with
good.
recovering.
That is very good. Awesome. And even the medium budget doesn't look like too insane on a lot of the pieces.
Most of these things you can alteration craft is
Yeah,
buying the
like
base item.
even in the medium budget, it's just the wand and the helmet that is like on the harder end, and the damage is great.
Well, I would say the shield, I guess, as well. But yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
If you look at the skeletons in the helmets, Balsam Skeletons becomes very accessible, very fast in fights, and the
Mhm.
damage is skyrockets from this. I believe it's
Right.
like 20 million.
Oh wow, yeah. Very cool. That'd be nice for bursting them bosses. Cool. And then you have made a super like mirror tier main max version as well with aspirational gear, which is very cool. So people that do want to go the extra mile, you want to make this your main build, and you want to put like, you know, over a mirror worth of stuff in it. You have an idea of what to go for here.
Yeah, the high budgets should be estimated depending on the markets. 100, 150 divines, I think.
Mhm.
This build tanks serious meteor slams as well.
Oh,
It's
nice.
nutty, and that's just the high budget version. Same thing there. If you look at the large cluster, it's 3 mods, not fully. Like we've cut it down the best we could, and I mean the damage is ridiculous, obviously, and it's actually the same helmet, but I added one higher tier on hypothermia and one higher
Ah,
tier of the minions. So this is like the
so that's not too
worst of the
bad.
worst for high budgets. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What's fun with this though is the leech. So we're
Okay.
on CI, right? And we have to spec Ghost Reaver to make the leech apply to energy shield this way. This is the one thing that I'm very excited for and why I want to start this. So the leech goes to energy shield, and we make 10% of that be instant. But since we do so much damage, 1% of a ridiculous amount of damage is leeched, and then 1%, or sorry, 10% of that 1% is then instant, which caps at 10% of your energy shield, I believe it is. So we're getting with this POB 73 energy shield instant per hit per minion that they're doing, and if you have 30 plus minions attacking,
Oh
that's
well.
a lot of energy shield
So
per second.
how are you making the minions leech for you?
Bone barrier ascendancy node.
Oh yeah.
We got Baron. We had Baron at home, but now we got the good one.
That is very nice. That is incredibly nice. Honestly, that looks super cool as well.
Now very happy with this build in
Yeah.
general. Like, I've been working on Zoomancer together with a community member called Helmbreaker. I believe he has recently posted a poison variant on this on Maxroll actually. And we've been working on this for 16 months, and I decided to make a CI version with the cold version that I'm handling at the moment. And he made a poison version now, so more options for the community is just good.
That's awesome. And this is on PoE Vault as well. So if you want like super details with like everything explained and you POB isn't enough for you, then head on over to PoE Vault and check that out there as well. So super awesome job with this, dude. Thank you so much for joining us here for the video. And like I said, guys, Gezi is going to be league starting this. So make sure you check him out. If you have any Minion related question, he's your man. And yeah, we'll be streaming a lot on League Start. So check us out there. And either way, guys, thanks for watching the video. Sub to both of us if you like it. But more importantly, try to die less than I do. Nah.